Hello and welcome to the feature event for the Green Valley Oval and Roval Night. Special night here, week number 8 for the Reach Throwback, doing both the races at one track here. Starting order is going to be your heat result from the, heat race. It's going to be Luke on the right, Vulcan on the left. That's 1, 2, Hunter, Roman, Slaunch, Nuked, Soul, Camby, and then Opix in the final lonesome row. It's going to be 65 laps, which is quite a few, but also can go by pretty quickly. Green flag. Let's see how the start of this race goes. And we had a lot of action in the heat race, but of course part of that's always because of, the shuffle of positions with drivers and, who's got the track figured out, different speeds and people getting caught in different lines and stuff like that. So, the heat races can always go a little bit different. We'll have to see if the feature race can bring that same action, because a lot of the time, that's not the case. These drivers get into, at the end of the heat race more where they should be, and things, settle out a little bit for the feature. But we'll see if that is the case here for Green Valley. That can be the case for a lot of these, GP and oval races, honestly, in general, and in particular here on this Reach Throwback. But again, we'll have to see if that ends up being the case here. Opix trying to get by Roman early on here. We're a few laps deep. Luke's got a decent gap for the lead. Hunter has moved his way into second. He got by Vulcan early on, taking advantage of that starting position. Slaunch, I think, having a pretty good time there in fourth place. Soul in a decent spot at the moment. The top 5. Opix going to get by Roman here. Going to start to make his campaign, his run to the front. But he's got to be careful because Roman and Nuked pull a bit of a cross up. I think they maybe even have a draft 3 wide with them. Camby in the back getting caught out early, so Camby's going to be on a bit of a recovery run. Going to have to stay focused back there and bring it back. Opix going to lose those 2 positions, but live to fight another day and try to bring it back here in a bit. And things could be getting spicy here towards the front as Vulcan is passing Hunter. Vulcan getting back by Hunter just like he did in the heat race. Going for second place. Vulcan so far looking pretty strong. These guys are having a great battle here in the back as Slaunch, Hunter, and Vulcan are having a great battle for the podium in the front. Luke opening up a bit of a gap with all that battle action happening for second and third place. So if they want to make their way back to the front, they're going to have to get work together and probably get a bit of a draft going, because that's already a pretty decent gap for the lead there. Roman conceding, stuck in the outside line here. Probably going to try to get back to the inside. Roman going all the way to last. Oh no, he's not happy with that. But look at this. Vulcan and Slaunch do get the hookup. They do make it work, and you can see the speed in the bottom left. Yeah, that you're not holding 90 consistently on your own. You're like barely hitting 90 at the end of that straightaway. So these guys are definitely picking up a lot of time, and this is pretty insane. It's pretty tough to figure out the draft and have it last this long on this track. But they are doing it right now, and it is giving them incredible gains. That entire lead that Luke worked for and early on in the race is gone in the matter of a couple laps with that draft from Slaunch and Vulcan. And now Slaunch going to the inside, trying to work his way to the lead, and Luke's going to set it back up and try to get behind Slaunch here. That run on the outside maybe goes for it, does go for it, brings Vulcan to the inside too, so that crossover sets up a 3 wide. And if you thought the Milwaukee Mile race wasn't that spicy, well, at Green Valley here, we're definitely bringing the spice. We've seen lots of action so far in the heat race, and now we have a 3-way battle for the lead. When was the last time that we had one of these in a feature race for an oval? It's been a minute. Probably like Big Bear is like the last time we've seen, battle action like this in one of the oval races. This is pretty good so far. Vulcan, by the way, throughout all that, works his way to the lead, and now we have Vulcan, your new leader. Vulcan hasn't been in this position, aside from like a heat race, in a long time. Hasn't won a race in a long time, but here he is, working that draft with Slaunch, getting by Luke for the lead, and now leading some laps in the feature here. And this is where things get interesting, because passing solo can be pretty tricky here at Green Valley. You really have to set it up, and if Vulcan holds this inside line, it's going to be really tough to get a move on him. So you can see here Luke looking for something, but if you follow the line, it's going to be very difficult to do, so you have to try to set up a move going wide a little bit, but that's going to be difficult when you have to worry about drivers behind you. Of course, you're in Luke's position here. You got to worry about Slaunch behind you too. You don't want to give up the second place spot either, so it's a really tricky spot in this lead battle here. But then again, if you're Slaunch, if you find the nose on Luke, maybe you just go for the draft and try to double speed by Vulcan. So there's a, with how well that draft worked for him and Vulcan earlier, he could definitely go for it with somebody else and just try to work his way to the lead. So there's definitely a few interesting aspects to how this podium battle could go up here. And you see they've gotten a big gap. I mean, Luke already had that big gap from the start, and Slaunch and Vulcan made up the time with the draft. And look at this. I mean, they've like maintained the gaps. That's Hunter back there. That's like the entire rest of the field back there. That's a pretty decent, like maybe like a quarter of a straightaway or so, like working its way to a half straightaway, somewhere around there. But I mean, as far as like oval racing goes, and especially Green Valley, the way this track is on the oval spectrum, that's a pretty big lead. So these guys in the podium spot have a pretty nice gap right now, I'd say. And if this race goes green, they're going to be looking pretty to the end of this one. I think they're going to be very happy with that. I think Vulcan, Luke, and Slaunch, as long as they don't do anything too crazy, or if they're... Oh, wait, this might be the move. Luke might have set it up right there. That outside to inside does get the nose. We'll see if he can continue it here. That might have been the move, or might have at least started it, and it looks like it has started it. It looks like he has a tire on Vulcan, so now things are getting interesting, but Vulcan forcing that inside, not giving anything up, only giving just enough room for Luke to stay there on the inside, and he's just barely holding on to it. And this is probably slowing them both up just a little bit, so yeah, you can tell Slaunch is starting to make up some time, and Luke loses the tire, and now has to work it down on Vulcan again. Vulcan's so far so good for at least like 10 laps or so here. You can tell Luke going for the outside, going for that angle. This is what you have to do to try to set it up. Otherwise, they just hold that inside. And it looks like it might work this time again. Finding that little bit of space, but can he get the run through the middle of the corner? That time, it looks like he's able to. And now Luke with half a goose on Vulcan. This could get interesting. There it is. Now he's got half a goose in front of him, and that might be it. Vulcan did a great job holding on to the lead for a long time there, but after a many lap battle there, like at least 12 or so lap battle between the two of them, Luke finally got the nose and finally got by him, and Vulcan lets Luke by there and goes for a bit of a protective move, or got loose a little bit. Not sure exactly what happened, or maybe maybe a actual strategy move to get back with the draft with Slaunch. And look at this, they lost so much time, but they do get hooked back up with the draft, and they gained a lot of it right back there. And they got to be careful because Hunter's starting to catch up. Hunter's starting to get away from Soul, who's in the top 5. Nuke is trying to hold it off. Canby back there. Roman, Opix, they're all still battling in those back spots. But this just got weird. Slaunch has worked his way to second now. And Slaunch, aside from Big Bear was the one blemish on his oval season in this Reach Throwback so far. But aside from Big Bear, Slaunch has actually been one of the top oval contenders. Definitely in the top 3. I would say Turkey, Luke, and Slaunch have probably been the top 3 in terms of consistency on the ovals throughout these Reach Throwback races so far. And he had that one blemish at Big Bear, but aside from that, I mean, the rest of his record has been pretty good. Many podiums and solid finishes, and even a win at Charlotte. So, Slaunch, that full send team with Slaunch and Turkey, you'd expect them to be a little more aggressive, maybe on those SX tracks, maybe on those GPs, but they've been really good on the ovals. As a whole, I would say, because they have Uncle Blake too, and he's been good there too. As a whole, I would say they've been the best oval team. Full Send has actually been the best oval team this season, which talked about it in one of the other VODs, is something we didn't really expect. While I'm going through this, though, Vulcan and Hunter have actually managed to hook up a bit, and they've actually figured something out. So now Slaunch goes back to 4th, because Vulcan and Hunter got something working together. And look at this. I mean, they're way gone from Slaunch now, and they're not that far away from Luke. The draft cheese coming into it, and I think this race ends, I don't remember the exact, I want to say like 163, but no, I think that is it actually. I think it is 163. So, we're starting to get there. We're getting closer to it. We're past the halfway point. We're well past the halfway point already. No cautions so far, and no cautions in sight, I would say, unless we get hit with some lag cheese, which again is how a lot of these Reach races go. Reach oval races go. if you don't get the lag cheese, cautions don't come out. I mean, hell, we've seen races with more likely cautions on our GPs with people falling off the track as opposed to, you know, how some of our oval races have gone. So, but yeah, a lot of the oval cautions have been, you know, lag caused, and that's just kind of the way it is on this game. That's kind of how it's been this season, which isn't too surprising. That's the way it used to be. That's just kind of the way it is on Reach. Halo 5, you have the cheesy physics of the cushion and the moves that you have to make on Halo 5 to make passes happen makes cautions a little more likely on Halo 5, and the way we have the track set up too, a lot of them being outside heavy, so you know, usually you're a little closer to the wall, you're working near the wall a lot more often, which obviously creates more caution opportunities. So there's a few reasons for it, but yeah, World of Outlaw, I would say that main thing is that outside preferred line. You know, the outside generally being the preferred line are Halo 5 tracks and our World of Outlaw tracks too. I think that's a big factor in it because, again, like I said, a lot more operation close to the wall. And when that's the case, you're going to have people going for moves close to the wall and making mistakes in those moves and putting people in the wall and cautions coming out. Whereas in these Reach tracks, a lot of them inside focused. And with that, you are not going to see as much stuff like that, right? The insides are usually a little open. There's usually a bit of leeway on the apron, a little bit of room to work with. So, you know, if you're getting somebody in the wall, there's some foul play at hand a lot of the time in a lot of these Reach tracks. Not all of them. Next week we'll get to it later, but next week we actually have a track that might have some outside prowess. Again, Big Bear was pretty well balanced too, I would say. I mean, the outside line was at least important, but a lot of our other ovals and a lot of them in this game in general are inside focused. A lot of them this season have been. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense there too, right? We saw a lot more cautions at Big Bear, and that track had a lot more outside prowess, I would say. And I think that'll be the case. But yeah, next week though, after this one, I'll do the preview now. We're going to the Adrenaline Autodome, so that's going to be our second to last oval race of the regular season. Now, I'm really looking forward to that one because that is a dirt track, and that's going to be really exciting. That is one of my favorite tracks from back in the day in Reach, like seriously, not just oval in particular, just in general. Adrenaline Autodome is one of my favorite tracks, and I am really looking forward. I hope all the drivers that have, you know, start and park drivers like Kat and Camby consider showing up to that race, because I'm telling you, I think that's going to be one of the coolest races of the season. That track is awesome, really fun to race on, really unique, and definitely don't want to miss that one. But look at this. Hunter has gotten away from Vulcan and Slaunch, and Vulcan started falling back. Slaunch started to making the move. But again, what if this might have been a tactic from Vulcan? Vulcan might have been holding up a bit to get Slaunch back to him so they could try to catch back up to Hunter. This is an interesting spot now, though, because, you know, if they get up with Hunter, they're probably going to battle with him. They're probably not going to keep their draft connection going. So it's like, how do you get to the lead here? You kind of have to work with Hunter too. So how exactly do you make this work? It's going to be really difficult because you have to cooperate with 3 drivers here, which is really tough. And again, with Hunter may not want any of that. Like, yeah, I'm sure Hunter wants to win, but he hasn't had a podium this season. So I'm sure he's very happy with his second place right now. I mean, obviously you always want to win. But again, I mean, that is his best finish by far on the season so far. So I'm sure he definitely does not want to give that up. So it's a weird spot. It's like, what do you go for here? And it's interesting with the drivers too. Like, Luke's got a nice gap for the lead, but, you know, still trying to extend it. Slaunch is trying to work at that podium spot. He still has a good shot at finishing on the podium in points. So, but at the same time, he only has 2 mulligans, and he's already used them up pretty well. So if he gets a bad finish, I mean, it's going to start to cost. Like, he's kind of used up his mulligans at this point, I guess you could say. So he can't really, like, go totally risk-free at this point. Whereas Vulcan and Hunter are back there in the points, and they don't have any mulligans. So if you're Vulcan and Hunter, do you really have anything to lose? I mean, they're already back there in the points. They don't have any mulligans. Like, why not go for a cheesy draft move, something like that? That's something we talked about at the Daytona race. Like, why not go for something like that? You know, why not go for a little strap move here and just try to make something happen and go for the win here? Or, again, Hunter might just be content with that second place. So you never know. I think what it seems like to me, we'll see if they show up in the comments, but I would imagine that Hunter is probably more game for this podium. Vulcan, I bet, though, and from what I've watched so far this race, Vulcan, I feel like more so just wants to go for the win. I think Hunter's pretty content with this podium. That's kind of what I've seen. But now we have Slaunch making the move on Hunter, and let's see if they can make something happen with the draft here. It looks like too clean of a pass. Looks like Slaunch gets by Hunter, and yeah, it's just too clean. That draft cheese is not going to happen. So Hunter now falls back to third, but again, still, he has not had a podium this season, so I'm sure he's still pretty happy with that. Man, look at this order. Look at this order that we have. Luke, Slaunch, Hunter, Vulcan. What an order. Not one that we're used to seeing. And then our top five, Roman's rounding out the top five now, then Sol, then Camby, then Opix and Nuked have fallen. Wow, they've fallen quite far back, so those guys are really hoping for a caution at this point. That being said, Sol, Camby, and Roman are still kind of close. This top three battle has been great the entire race. They're still very close. This has actually been some pretty good oval racing. Like, for a full green race, this has not been that bad. But we're getting close to the end here. I believe that was 2 to go for the leaders. So 2 more laps to go for Luke. Can these guys make anything happen? It's a little too late, I would say, to go for any type of sandbagging maneuver to get, a draft going. I think it's too late for that, but now we're going to be going to the white flag. 1 more lap to go for Luke, and if he takes this, this will be 7th moto win for him on the season, and another win on an oval as well. I think 2 in a row in the ovals, and it looks like he's going to do it. Luke takes the win. Slaunch second. Hunter third. His first podium of the season. Vulcan, a great finish as well. Roman rounding out the top 5 on that one. For a green the whole way oval race, gotta say, not bad. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. So Daytona was taken by Turkey. Big Bear. Blake led a lot, but Luke was able to take it in the final lap. Charlotte, Slaunch dominated that feature race. Milwaukee Mile, Luke had a really good run there, and then repeats it here at Green Valley Raceway to go back-to-back in the last 2 oval races. But Slaunch, again, Milwaukee Mile was like kind of an off finish for him, but again, he won Charlotte. He did well at Daytona, placed on the podium there, and he picks up his 3rd podium on the ovals this season. He's now finished on every position on the podium on ovals this season. 1st at Charlotte, 3rd at Daytona, and now 2nd at Green Valley Raceway. So Slaunch taking another podium on the ovals this season. Again, showing pretty good strength there. And then we have a new podium finisher. Always like to see this. We saw this last week with Cat, not just finishing on the podium, but winning Lime Rock Park. And now we see Hunter getting his first podium finish on the Reach Throwback season, taking 3rd here. And Roman rounding out the top 5, but I'll give a quick shout out to Vulcan with a really good run, 4th place as well. Definitely had potential to, take a win there. He was doing a good job holding on to it for a while and take a podium. So that was a pretty good result for Vulcan too. That was one of probably his best race at this point. In the Reach Throwback, I would say. Probably his best race at this point. But the full results, we'll go through them one more time quick. Luke, Slaunch, Hunter, Vulcan, Roman, and then Sol, Camby, Opix, Nuked. That is your final results for the Green Valley Raceway Oval. Now, we're going to go into another heat and another feature going on to the Roval. This is going to be fun. Really interesting doubleheader that we have tonight. Let's get into it.